Okay, good morning. Okay, so I just want to start by telling you I've got a secret to tell you. Some of the biggest roadblocks in our lives come from choices that we make that we keep repeating without even realizing it, and that is self-sabotage. So, hi, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad you're here with me. If you can drop in the chat where you're tuning in from and what kind of nursing you do. This topic that we're doing is self-sabotage, and this was revealed to me by God. I was going through a hard time in my life and I felt really lost and I didn't know what to do. So I felt like I was spinning out of control, and I thought, well, if I can just go for a walk, get in the fresh air, and just talk to God, maybe I'll hear from him and he'll give me something. So as I was walking and talking to God, pouring out my heart, he gave me the word self-sabotage. And that's when I knew that's what my problem was. And I knew I was called to do a workshop on this topic for you. So it changed how I see burnout. For years, I thought exhaustion was just part of nursing. But God showed me that I wasn't just tired, I was punishing myself through self-sabotage. Do you ever feel that way? And drop a yes in the comments if you feel that way at times. So today we're going to talk about what it is. What is self-sabotage? Why do we do it? How does it show up in our bodies? What can you do about it? And what happens if we don't make any changes in our lives? Self-sabotage means working against yourself, consciously or unconsciously. It's when your habits, fears, or beliefs quietly pull you away from what you want or need. Do you feel the power in what I just said? For nurses, it can look like staying in a job that drains you because it's familiar, it feels safe. Picking up multiple jobs because you're scared of falling behind financially. Saying yes to working an extra shift when your body and mind are begging for rest. Feeling guilty for setting boundaries or asking for help. Do you feel a shift in your body after I said this? Where in your body do you feel it? This is how this work is reflected in your body. How do you feel it coming up? Drop a heart in the chat if you can relate to one or more of these things. I know that I can. Nurses with long shifts or multiple jobs report highest levels of emotional exhaustion. We call it dedication, but God calls it disobedience to his design. He created us he didn't create us to run on empty. He created us to serve and to rest. We self-sabotage because of fear and conditioning. What is this bringing up for you? Many of us grew up or were trained in systems that taught us work harder equals you're worth more. Rest equals laziness. Boundaries equal selfishness. And as a nurse, we internalize those beliefs. We fear disappointing others more than disappointing ourselves. And there's also science behind this. Our brains, they're wired for safety, not success. Familiar routines, even unhealthy ones, feel safe. So we keep repeating burnout cycles because they're predictable. Do you feel the power in that? And some, I wanted to talk about, like, just touch on a few of the major burnout cycles that we see in nursing. But I was just reading in a meta-analysis published by PubMed that says 65% of nurses report high levels of stress and burnout. That's huge. So let's talk about just touch on common burnout cycles that we see in nursing. One is the stress, exhaustion, detachment cycle. An example of this is being short-staffed. The pattern is stress builds, you get emotionally exhausted, you detach as self-protection, then you feel guilty and you re-engage and repeat. There's the compassion fatigue cycle. You have continuous exposure to patient trauma or suffering. The pattern is empathy, then emotional overload, then numbing or avoidance, then guilt, then overcompensation, and back to renewed exhaustion. The survival mode cycle, this is chronic understaffing and unpredictable shifts. The pattern is just get through today. Then you have poor sleep and nutrition, cognitive fog, irritability, low performance, and more pressure. And this cycle dysregulates the nervous system. Then you have the martyrdom or the good nurse cycle. This could be self-worth is tied to your performance. This pattern is overgiving, then resentment, then guilt, then overgiving again. This is people pleasing and perfectionism. And the moral injury cycle, this is being unable to provide care you know is right due to systemic barriers. The pattern is you're ethically distressed that leads to moral conflict, then suppression, then cynicism or withdrawal, and finally, loss of meaning. Then there's the fight, flight, and freeze cycle. This is repeated stress without regulation or recovery. The pattern is your stress response activates, then nervous system dysregulation, then chronic hypervigilance or shutdown, then burnout. That's symptoms like insomnia, anxiety, and detachment. Then we have the burnout recovery relapse cycle. This can look like temporary relief, like taking a vacation, without addressing the root cause. The pattern is your recovery break. Then you return to the same conditions, relapse, and you go into deeper exhaustion. This is superficial fixes, unhealed emotional wounds, unaddressed mindset, or system issues. The chronic overcommitment cycle, that's where we pick up extra shifts, working multiple jobs, or always saying yes. And this pattern is overcommitment leads to fatigue, then poor boundaries, then resentment, then guilt, and repeat. This can be driven from financial pressure, identity tied to productivity, or external validation. Then we have the night shift cycle. This is your circadian disruption, isolation, and irregular sleep patterns. So this pattern is sleeping deficit leads to poor mood regulation, then errors or irritability, then shame, then disrupted rest, and then worsening burnout. And finally, the last one is the self-sabotage cycle. This is unhealed trauma or internalized unworthiness. The pattern is progress, then discomfort with success, then self-doubt or withdrawal, then regression, then guilt, then restarting the cycle. This can be caused from low self-worth, imposter syndrome, or unresolved emotional pain. Type a yes if you know you've been repeating a burnout cycle. Which one resonates with you the most? Or do you overlap with several different cycles? I know I've done several of these cycles. Each cycle reflects a pattern nurses can get stuck in chronic stress, trauma, or a moral injury goes unaddressed. That's why nurses stay in toxic jobs, tolerate poor leadership, or keep overextending themselves, not because they don't want change, but because fear makes the familiar feel safer than the unknown. Do you feel the power in what I just said? I once stayed in a job that made me dread going to work. I told myself I can't leave because I know the hours are good. I knew the charting system, the team was familiar, I knew the hospital policy, but I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sleeping well. I was angry. I'd taken it out on my family and I cried a lot. That wasn't stability, that was bondage. That was self-sabotage. So let's break it down because self-sabotage shows up different in areas of our life. So I want you to hear yourself in this. And if any of this resonates with you, drop a heart in the chat. So there's the mental and emotional aspect. That's the overthinking, the second guessing decisions, and rereading every chart note. Your mind won't turn off. You wake up at 3 in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to get that patient water. That's happened to me. Or feeling guilty for taking a day off. Numbing emotions with food, wine, scrolling, or overworking. Suppressing feelings until you explode at the small things. Does that resonate with you? For me, I would overthink, numb my emotions, and suppress my feelings and then explode at the smallest thing. When I was deep in burnout, I'd tell myself, just get through one more shift. I was anxious before and detached after. That wasn't commitment, that was survival mode. And you have the physical health aspects, skipping meals, staying dehydrated, running on caffeine, or for some, it's energy drinks, ignoring body pain, headaches, and fatigue, working multiple shifts and calling it just helping out. Research shows chronic fatigue from overwork increases risk of anxiety, insomnia, and even cardiac issues. Do you feel this in your body? And how does it make you feel? Our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. When we neglect them, we're not being humble, we're being disobedient. There's the career and business aspect. And that's when you're staying in toxic environments because change feels risky. We normally don't like change in our lives or at our jobs. Taking extra certifications or working extra shifts to feel productive instead of resting. Doubting your skills and settling for less than what you deserve. Not applying for that new job or starting that business that God has put on your heart. Do you feel this? This is powerful. When I started my consulting business, I was scared. I had doubts. I had imposter syndrome, and I felt the anxiety almost daily. I kept trying to go back to what was comfortable, the hospital, the predictable, the safe place. But I knew God had more for me. He had a calling on my life, and He has a calling on your life too. And there's a relationship aspect. That you're being the caregiver for everyone. Spouse, kids, extended family, coworkers, all while your cup is empty. Avoiding tough conversations because you hate conflict. I do that. Feeling resentful because you're too tired to speak up. Saying, I'm fine, when you're anything but. Self-sabotage doesn't just show up at work, it bleeds into your home, your friendships, your relationships, and even your relationship with God. Do you ever feel like your cup is empty? How does it feel in your mind, body, and spirit? Does it feel heavy? There's hope, and you can start making changes in your life and in your daily patterns, even if they start out as just small things. There are 3 layers to healing this pattern: spiritually, mentally, and behaviorally. Spiritually, invite God in. Pray for wisdom. Lord, just show me where I'm standing in my own way. Replace fear with faith and exhaustion with peace. Rest and boundaries are acts of obedience. Remember, God rested, and so should you. Mentally, understand that your brain can change. It's called neuroplasticity. And I use this technique in my program called Zozo. This technique invites God in, and it reveals things to you that will change you. Every time you choose peace or give yourself grace in a situation instead of guilt, you create new wiring. Give yourself grace. You're not perfect, so stop trying to be. I know this is hard, believe me, because I have struggled with perfectionism too. Research shows improving self-esteem and resilience reduces burnout. And behaviorally, set real boundaries. No, I can't stay late. Yes, I'm taking my break. No, I won't pick up that extra shift. Nurses with stronger work-life boundaries have lower burnout risk because they understand the importance of taking care of themselves. This is powerful. You can take back your life and heal. Do you feel the shift in your body? Think of one boundary you need to make. Say it quietly or write it in the chat. Journal about it. Journaling is a great way to get your feelings and fears out. Writing in a journal is very therapeutic and can lead to healing the way you think about yourself. In my program, I teach you how to journal and give you specific journaling prompts to write about that will help you in your healing journey. If we don't interrupt the pattern, we stay stuck and we lose our joy. We start resenting the work we were once called to do. Do you remember when you first started nursing? Do you remember how it made you feel like you're making a difference? Do you remember how much you loved it? Our bodies pay the price with chronic stress, high cortisol, emotional numbness, health decline, or relationships strained. And spiritually, if we drift further from God's purpose, He can't pour new blessings into a vessel that's cracked from neglect. You are not meant to live burned out. You are not meant to survive on autopilot. God created you for peace, not pressure, for purpose, not punishment. Maybe you're thinking, I've tried this before. I've tried other therapies, or I don't have time. This isn't one more thing. This is the thing that changes everything. Because this time you're not doing it in your own strength. You're working with a seasoned nurse who has been through burnout, has the passion and the knowledge to help you heal. And think about, what is this really costing you? The price your family is paying because you're never present. When you are, you're exhausted, numb, or angry. And that's why I created my program, Mind Over Matter, a faith-based recovery journey for nurses built on science, spirituality, mental and emotional healing. In my program, you'll gain the ability to identify your burnout pattern and interrupt it within minutes. You'll know your triggers. You'll know how to stop the cycle before it escalates into chronic burnout and panic. You'll get clear emotional awareness. This awareness reduces reactivity, improves boundaries, and improves your ability to communicate your needs at work and at home. And you'll get a restored sense of purpose anchored in faith, identity, and grounded self-worth. I'm launching a beta program right now, and the first 10 nurses who join by the end of the month will receive the program for just $400. And this is the only time that I'm offering the program at this price because it is a beta. So next year, the price will double. So the time is now to stop the burnout cycle and finally live the life God meant for you. In my beta program, I just wanted to share, you'll get one-on-one coaching sessions weekly. You'll get one-on-one Sozo guided meditation sessions. And you'll have access to the member portal, which has online modules and guided meditations that you can do over and over again. And you'll have access to this member portal for the rest of your life. So it's powerful. I went through a program, I've been trained, and now it's my passion to help other nurses to heal. So that's everything. I want to thank y'all so much for joining me. But for you who are here, I do want to do a little drawing because I do have a free gift. I have a Burnout Relief Toolkit Mini Edition. So I have a little bowl here with all the names of the people who are joining. So I'm going to pick a name. And let's see who I have. I have Luann McCree. Congratulations, Luann. I'll be sending you the Burnout Relief Toolkit Mini Edition in your email. I have put in the chat my calendar link. So go ahead and get on there, grab you a spot. I do have some availability next week on my calendar to do a free 30-minute Zoom conversation with you to start you on your healing journey. So that is all I have for this workshop. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time. All right. Y'all have a great day. Bye.